Hello Booktubia, and thanks for joining me for Books Done Right. This is a new video series geared specifically towards the writers of Booktubia because I know there are a ton of us out there, including myself. Writers, I think, learn best by example. I don't know about the rest of you, but I learned to write entirely from the books that I have read. I've never taken an official writing class. My dad did put me through kind of a homeschool writing course, and it crushed my writer's soul. I hated it so much. It might have taught me a couple of good techniques, but I can't conform to a writing class because I want to write what I want to write, and I don't necessarily want to write assignments. I've always been really bad at writing something that I have to write, because what I love to do is write what I want to write. So the best way for me to learn is to read great books, tons and tons of great books, because I can pick up the different techniques, the different styles. I've learned how to write, how to form sentences and paragraphs and chapters from the books that I have read, and I think that great book examples are the best way for a writer to learn. So I'm not saying that writing classes are bad, but I do know that people who take writing classes do have a tendency to, instead of exploring their own style of writing, they are pressured into conforming to their teacher or professor's style of writing. And I don't think that that's good. I know several people who, after taking all of these different courses in college for their degrees, that they can't be creative, and it took them several years to recover from this, and I really don't think that that is a good thing for writers. There has got to be a better way for us to learn more about writing and to get better at writing than to have somebody crush our writer's soul and creativity. The purpose of this video series is that every time I come across a book that I think perfectly implements a certain writing style or technique, I am going to feature it in this video series, and I'm going to explain what technique it is that I think it has completely mastered and how I think it will help writers better shape themselves as writers. First, a question. Why is it that we automatically believe anyone wearing glasses is scholarly and professional? I have no idea, and in case you're wondering, no, these glasses really aren't real. I just think they make me look scholarly and professional. For my first video, we'll be taking a look at first-person point of view, featuring the book that really got it right. Confessions of a Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella. Kinsella absolutely dominates telling a story in the first. I have never before read a book that so engrosses me in the perspective and thought process of a character. This book lives and breathes Becky Bloomwood, and that is exactly what a book in the first person should do. Let me read you an excerpt so you can see what I'm talking about. This is right as Becky has just bought tickets for the lottery, and she's watching the show on television to see if she's won. I stare at the screen in utter disbelief. The first ball has already dropped, and it's 44. My number 44. Last appeared 3 weeks ago, and here comes the second ball, and it's number 1. I can't move. It's taking place before my very eyes. I'm actually winning the lottery. I'm winning the bloody lottery. Now that it's happening, I feel surprisingly calm about it. It's as if I've known all my life that this would happen. Sitting here silently on the sofa, I feel as though I'm in a fly-on-the-wall documentary about myself. Becky Bloomwood always secretly knew she would win the lottery one day, but on the day it happened, even she couldn't have predicted, and another low one, number 3. What? My mind snaps too, and I stare perplexedly at the screen. That can't be right. They mean 23. And number 2, last week's bonus ball. I feel cold all over. What the hell is going on? What are these numbers? And another low one, number 4, a popular number. It's had 12 appearances so far this year. And finally, number 5. Well, I never. This is a bit of a first. Now, lining them up in order. No, this can't be serious. This has to be a mistake. The winning lottery numbers cannot possibly be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 44. That's not a lottery combination. It's an act of torture. And I was winning. I was winning! You see how Becky's thoughts are inseparable from the narration of the story? This is first-class, first-person POV. This perspective is all about getting into the character's head, and that is exactly what Kinsella has done. This is a fun, utterly entertaining book, great for fans of chick lit and romantic comedy, but first and foremost, I would recommend this to writers attempting to write in the first person, because this is how it's done. I promise you, it will work wonders for your view of first-person perspective. After reading this, you will come up with all kinds of ideas of how to take the best advantage of this unique and tricky storytelling form. I speak from experience. My novel is told from the first-person point of view, and one day I asked my dad, who acts most of the time as my editor and beta reader, whether he thought my main character Rodney was larger than life, whether he leapt off the page and into your imagination. And after a moment of thought, he said, no. Understandably, I was a bit disappointed. I was trying to figure out just how to make Rodney a more dynamic character, and that was right about when I read Confessions for the first time. And then the light bulb went on. Taking a page from Kinsella's book, well, not a literal page because that's plagiarism and people really frown on that, I took a new look at my story and completely revised Rodney's voice and the way he told the story. Now I'm going to share an excerpt from an earlier draft and another from a later one just to show you the difference. This is from one of my earlier drafts. I shuddered when I stepped into the dark and claustrophobic confines of the game reserve. How could people honestly endure this? I glanced around me at the bleating machines and chiming games, and it all seemed a little eerie to me. The place was like a giant cave, and the only light seemed to come from the machines themselves, their flashing and blinking lights. No sunbeams could reach in through the tinted windows. And this is the much improved later draft. Tinted windows blocked the sunlight, leaving me blind as my eyes struggled to adjust. Overhead, long bulbs flickered with barely enough light to see my hand in front of my face. The machines also had lights, tiny, blinking colored things hardly luminous enough to be worthy of the name. When my surroundings began to morph into discernible shapes, I almost wished for the darkness again. Machines crammed every inch of available space. A narrow path wound through the chaos, with corners curved so tight they nearly barred the way. The low ceiling made the whole room feel like a squashed matchbox. I hunched, convinced the tiles above me would come crashing down at any moment. I couldn't help wondering how people voluntarily endured this. I glanced around at the few zombified patrons and realized they could probably endure anything, so long as they had a shiny screen and working buttons. They weren't even aware of the world around them. Given the option, I wouldn't set foot in this arcade. My heart thudded against my chest, and the blood whooshing in my ears drowned out the demented chimes and wails of the machines. Those were the worst of my symptoms. I've been able to build up a bit of immunity to the reserve's claustrophobic confines. Something crashed and I yelped. Like I said, it's only a bit of immunity. Now, I like to think that my skills in general have improved quite a bit between these two, but did you notice a difference in the narration, the perspective? Which was more compelling? The second, right? Because each description is wrapped in a layer of Rodney's consciousness. In the first piece, an arcade is being described. Game machines, low lighting. It's a general description, and a generic picture of an arcade jumped into your mind, right? In the second piece, I capitalized on Rodney's panic and claustrophobia to morph the arcade into a different, more menacing place. It took a definite shape in your mind instead of a generic arcade. You saw it through Rodney's eyes. This is what Confessions of a Shopaholic taught me, so if you're interested in writing in the first-person point of view, you need to read this. So thanks for joining me for my first video of Books Done Right, and I hope to see you again soon. Go ahead and leave comments and tell me of any of the books that you think have really nailed a certain technique or style, because I would love to find more. These are great examples, not only of good books, but as real-life examples for writers who are attempting to write. And feedback. I love feedback. So writers of Booktubia, this is for you. Go ahead and leave me some comments. And of course, like and subscribe if you like what you see in here.